You know, the thoughts that I have of Linda go back 27 years we've known each other. And during that time, we would crisscross political paths. I was running in Maple Grove, and she'd be running over here in Brooklyn Park. And we'd share meetings, breakfast meetings, political debates. And she'd always kind of look over at me, and we weren't ever opposing each other. And so we kind of were neutrals. And it was kind of fun. She eventually got into office over a long period of time, so did I. And we kind of developed what I would call a kind of a non-aggression pact. We wouldn't throw bombs at each other across Highway 169, and we got along fine. But before we were both elected, we would meet at the North Hennepin Chamber of Commerce business breakfast meetings. And Al Joyner, an old-time inhabitant of Osseo, would run it. He's very stately and very dignified. And Bill Schreiber and Bill Luther would be there, and they would be the respective state rep and state senator. And Linda and I would make questions. And we'd put questions on little 3x5 cards, and we'd send them to the front. And they were just intended. We'd think them up at the table, and we'd send them over with the intention of having a huge debate go on. And sure enough, Schreiber and Luther would lunge at the questions. They would say one thing, the other would have to counter the other one, and pretty soon there was just this huge political hullabaloo over breakfast, and we'd be tiptoeing out of the room and laughing it up outside the door going, gee, what can we do next week for this? And so Linda and I kind of had a little bit of an impish sense of humor as we kind of began getting to know each other. Then we got into political office, and that continued. And you know, we never, oh yeah, we did debate against each other from time to time, but never of the kind of debate that the public senses that we just are at each other's throats all the time. We'd have honest discussion, we'd have honest disagreement, and then afterward or in the back sitting room, we'd sit there and we'd talk about, well, you made a good point there, or I didn't have an answer for you. And we'd start talking about it, but we wouldn't talk about the political issue for long because Linda was so fun to visit with and so easy to talk to. And you wanted to get to know Linda more than the political issue that we were stuck in the job for. And so we would continue to talk, and I think that probably is what endeared Linda Scheid to people who knew her, because after a while the political issues would drift away and you really just wanted to know who this person was. And she was always engaging, she'd always be questioning, always interested in your life, what your kids were doing, what your wife was doing. And so that was kind of the one thing I remember. Politics was not the priority with Linda. She wanted to do the right thing. We were all elected. But what you really found with Linda is that she really cared about the people that she visited with, she talked to, even if it was for a few minutes out of a day. You always knew that she always deeply cared for people. And I think that's the one thing that's going to follow me in my memory of Linda, is that if I could be the half the person that cares and pauses about people the way she did, I'll be a very happy person. And I think we all get stuck fighting the cause and not remembering who we're fighting it for. Linda never forgot it. I remember her saying, you know, I've been listening to Warren, and believe it or not, and she'd look around the room at her Democrats and believe it or not, I think Limmer's right on this. And they all would gasp, you know, and think, what is Linda coming to? You know, how could she possibly agree with Limmer? And because I'm active on the floor, I debate a lot. And then she'd give her reasons, and I got a couple more DFL votes a couple times and carried the day. But it wasn't without Linda's presence and Linda's leadership in a debate to say, you know, I think it's time to listen to what the other side says. Now, she served on the Judiciary Committee like I did, so we had a lot of interaction. And if I'd be advancing a cause, what would happen is she would sit, listen carefully, and being a wise legislator, she wouldn't get involved in the debate right away. She would listen, and then after both sides are kind of exhausted, then she would enter into the debate, and she would say something, and I would be advancing some conservative cause. And she would slowly, meticulously, common sense centered, would slowly pick the feathers cleanly off my argument, and I would be kind of denuded philosophically, and there was no way I could argue with the common sense argument that she would present. And I remember just cringing every time that she would do that to me and going, oh, I'm going to lose my debate. Linda's speaking now. And so that's a test of a good idea. That's a test of whether an idea is really good or not, is if the more senior members who are wise enough to pause, listen to the whole argument, or maybe even strategize in their own mind how to stop this idea. It's my job to, as a proponent of an idea, to be prepared for all debate, to be prepared for every objection, but if it's couched in a common sense framework, very hard, especially when presented by a senior member who is known for a moderate, maybe in her case a moderate center-left, center-liberal perspective, but there was enough room in her past to show that she could become a pragmatic enough to reach over the philosophical divide and vote for a conservative idea from time to time. That type of person is hard to debate against. And so I always would cringe at the time when she would gently but firmly stitch an argument together that just would, you know, just pluck the feathers right off me, and I'd be sitting there thinking, I don't know how to argue this anymore. And then she'd kind of give you that little laugh and a little smile, and you knew that she knew that she had you. And so being in the legislature for 23 years, I certainly was on the receiving side of that, and it made me a better person.